Welcome to House Talk with maintenance tips unique to the retreat at Banning Lewis Ranch with your host, Doug Bowman. Hello and welcome. Here's one of my videos I did a few years ago about garage door maintenance. It still applies today. The only thing I want to mention to retreat homeowners up front is that while I discuss two different types of door springs here, a torsion spring and a newer Torquemaster style spring, it's the Torquemaster style spring that's more prevalent in the retreat. I hope you like it. The average life of a set of garage door springs is about 10,000 cycles. So if you do the math and you take your car out once a day, you'll get there in about 14 years. Unfortunately, my house is 17 years old. The good news for me is that I don't have to do the math because my smart garage door app actually counts the cycles for me. As you can see, it's already counted 9,914 full cycles already. The bad news is that this is actually my second garage door opener and I have no clue how many more thousands of cycles it operated before I replaced it. I guarantee you I'm well past the normal life cycle, but I've been doing maintenance on my door all along. Have you? Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the simple instructions and maintenance tasks that you can do to extend the life of your door, including the springs, fasteners, and rollers. There are three major components to your garage door, and they all rely on each other to work safely. It starts with the garage door, height, width, and weight. From there, you match up the size of the spring to the door, and lastly, the garage door opener. If any one of these three start to fail, the other two have to work harder until something gives. So let's start by talking about how they work. A garage door can weigh between 150 and 250 pounds or more. When the garage door is closed, all of that weight is pushing straight down. As it rises, it transfers the weight to the horizontal rails. First 25%, 50, 75, then 100% of the door's weight is on the rails. So the hardest lifting work has to be done right at the start, and then it tapers off as it opens. Luckily, springs are the perfect solution for this. They start off weak and then charge more and more as the door closes, so the maximum charge can be used to lift the maximum weight of the door. When the door and springs are perfectly balanced, theoretically, you would be able to disconnect the opener and balance the door at almost any position. It doesn't always work out this way, but it should balance in several places as it travels open. If your door doesn't travel smoothly, you should benefit from my maintenance tips. But if your door is like this, and it takes significant effort to open, you may have a broken or incorrectly tensioned spring, which will require a professional repairman for sure. Most garage door openers here have two springs, so having one fail requires the garage door opener to work significantly harder. It may work or it may not, but I guarantee you it won't last very long, so take quick action to repair your springs so you don't have to buy an opener as well. So let's get going with our maintenance tips. By the way, it's always a good idea to unplug and disengage the door opener before doing any work or inspections. So let's start with the door hardware. Over time, door fasteners can vibrate loose and put stress on the door and its balance. Annually, you should check the tightness of every fastener in the door. This doesn't mean that you should crank down on them until they strip. The intent here is to just ensure that they are holding snug and have a good grasp. So here's your first warning. Red means dead. Never, never, never loosen a screw, nut, or bolt that has been painted red on your door. These fasteners are under significant force from the door springs. Loosening them can result in the spring discharging and causing serious bodily harm. You can verify that they're snug, but never, never loosen them. Alright, now let's talk about hinges, rollers, and bearings. There are several hinges along every panel. Hinges also hold the roller wheel stems in place. Annually, you should lubricate these components. When lubricating the door, use a good quality silicone spray. Be careful not to overdo it, and you should dab up any excess spray so it will not drip down on your floor or your car. Do not use WD-40. It's a petroleum-based solvent and will evaporate in a very short time. Next, you should lube the roller stems and roller bearings. This will not only make them operate smoother, but also quieter. Notice that I didn't say anything about lubricating the side rails or the wheel surfaces. They are designed for this contact and don't need to be lubricated. Now, because of the huge variety and types of openers, it's difficult to give you detailed instructions on them, but lubricating the rail and trolley are usually a safe step. If your garage door opener is belt-driven, don't lubricate it. And if it's chain-driven, you can go ahead and use a small amount of white grease, applied to each link on the chain. The last lubrication tip I will give you is lubricating the torsion spring itself. There are two types of springs here in our neighborhood: the older torsion springs with the exposed spring and the newer TorqueMaster torsion springs, where the spring is hidden inside of a metal tube. You should see which style you have installed. Unfortunately, you won't be able to lubricate the newer TorqueMaster torsion springs, but the older torsion springs will greatly benefit from this treatment. If you think about how the springs rotate, there's significant side friction between the coils as it tightens and unwinds. Lubrication will help reduce the friction, and it'll also make it a little bit quieter. I like to use a rag to dab up any excess and put a piece of cardboard behind the coils to protect the wall from getting overspray. Okay, here comes your second warning. Lubrication is the only thing I would recommend for your springs. Attempting to adjust or repair a spring is extremely dangerous and not something you should ever do yourself. Picking up the phone and calling a trained professional is the most work you should do when it comes to spring problems. The next inspection will be inspecting the pulleys and cables. We are going to look at the steel cables that use the spring tension to lift the door. These cables are connected to the door at the bottom panel with some of those red means dead screws. They continue straight up the door to the spring pulleys. These cables should not have any visible fraying, rubbing, or wear throughout the cable's length. Also, as the door opens, the excess cable should roll up neatly on the cable drum above the door without any overlapping. Be sure to inspect on both sides. If the cables are damaged or frayed or loose anywhere, or overlapping on the drum, don't try to fix them yourselves. Be sure to contact a pro for repair. By the way, since you're up there looking, a little squirt of silicone on the rod bearing can't hurt if you can easily access it safely. If you have a TorqueMaster brand spring, the pulley may or may not be able to be viewed because some models come with a plastic cover over it. So here's a question for you. Are leaves, bugs, rodents, and even snakes finding their way into your garage? It might be time to inspect and replace your door's bottom seal. If it's completely flattened out or you can see light shining in, this may be the reason. I cut off a small end piece and found a replacement on Amazon for under $20. The old one slid right out, but getting the new one in was definitely a two-person job, but it was worth it. Now let's talk about your door's safety checks. As an owner, you should review and perform all the manufacturer's recommended safety checks. Not only will this protect you, but it can also be a way of assessing the door's proper operation. If you can't find your garage door opener's manual, just get the manufacturer's model number, and you'll be able to find it on this online manual library. They pretty much have everything. The first test you've already seen. With the door disengaged from the opener, lift the door to the mid-position and verify that it stays in place. If it doesn't, the springs might need to be adjusted. The next test is the safety reversal test. While closing the door, break the safety beam near the floor. The door should immediately reverse and go back fully open. If it doesn't reverse, the transmitter and/or the receiver will need to be either cleaned, adjusted, or repaired. It's not uncommon for the sensor wire to be damaged, which is something that you should be able to tackle yourself. The next two tests will test the door opener's sensitivity to interferences. As the door starts to go closed, try to restrain the door as it reaches waist height. It should sense the interference and immediately reverse to the full open position again. So the last reversal test is commonly called the 2x4 test, where you place a 2x4 in line with the door to simulate an obstruction. When the door reaches the 2x4, it should again sense the interference and immediately reverse to the full open position again. Failure of this test, or any of these safety tests, can result in bodily harm or damage to property, so it must be corrected. Door opener manuals provide instructions on how to adjust the door's limits being used in these tests, so if you're comfortable making this adjustment, go for it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video on garage doors. Even though they can be dangerous, there are still several tests that you can do to keep them running safely, reliably, and quieter. But again, if you find any concerns or unexplainable results, turn it over to a professional. Well, hopefully your door lasts a long time, and as always, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you found this video to be helpful, go ahead and subscribe and hit that like button.